With the news around the NBA this week, it feels like anything is possible. So is Jamahl Mosley's Heat a little warmer than we think? Temperature check today on Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is April 10th. It will be April 11th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media for the past decade plus. Been around a lot. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, since everybody is doing it because of the seemingly sudden firing of Mike Malone from the Denver Nuggets, let's take a temperature check and review Jamahl Mosley's season so far, what he's shown us, why he's still the coach, and why no seat is ever truly that cool. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether we're your first listen of the day, whether you're listening to us right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your everyday, especially if you're one of our everydayers. Appreciate you all. Come find me. I have stickers. You can, of course, subscribe to Locked On Magic wherever you download podcasts. You can also subscribe to the Locked On Magic Daily newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage, delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. It is the talk of the league. If you survey the Locked On podcast, it was likely suggested to us to do an episode like this, and I think it's worth. I'm not going to do things, but it has been the news of the week. The Denver Nuggets' sudden firing of Mike Malone and their general manager Calvin Booth, with just 3 games remaining in the season. One of the title contenders, one of the teams that people do believe has enough to win a championship, suddenly changing coaches at this critical juncture of the season. The fact that a coach like Mike Malone, and to some extent a coach like Taylor Jenkins from the Memphis Grizzlies, were suddenly and unceremoniously dumped this late in the season, continues this kind of feeling around the league that anything is possible. Luka Doncic got traded to the Lakers. Anything can happen, and nobody is quite sure what's going on in front offices. Now, let's lay some ground rules as we talk about the Magic's coaching situation and talk about Jamahl Mosley and what he has shown us this season. First, Jeff Weltman is not one of these general managers or one of these executives that's just going to panic. Well, the Magic, since Alex Martins became the team CEO and kind of oversees the whole franchise, not just the business side as he did back in the Otis Smith days, Alex Martins, he pulled the trigger a little bit quickly during the rebuild when things were not going so hot. But Jeff Weltman is someone that, at least to my understanding and my just my kind of vibe around the franchise, and talking to some people who might know, Jeff Weltman is in no danger of anything. The Magic are very happy with where the team is at and what the team has done. They, Jeff Weltman is very, very patient. The Magic like that he is patient. He has been successful. The Magic are going back to the postseason, likely to be back in the playoffs for a second straight year. They've won back-to-back division championships. That is not nothing to this franchise, even if it is something very, very small. So there's no sense of, the Magic have not had the season they hoped for. Yes, perhaps continuity has been played to its logical end here, and we are expecting changes to this Magic team. You're expecting some changes, and I think the team is also expecting changes to the roster. They understand that they didn't perform to their standard. The team has to improve, and that's going to mean swapping out some players and moving some guys around. So let's start there. It would be truly shocking if the Magic did anything to change either the front office with Jeff Weltman or the coaching staff or the coach with Jamahl Mosley. Now, the coaching staff would not shock me if there are some tweaks to the coaching staff, if, certainly the offense has not been what they want it to be. They're going to look to add some offensive players. Maybe the coaching staff needs a little bit of a shake-up too. But Jamahl Mosley is like one of his like coachisms is he credits the staff for everything. Put credit on himself. He wants to give coaching staff and pump up his coaching staff as much as possible. And look, as much as we say all this stuff, we don't really know what coach is responsible for what. Like Jesse Mermis is at least nominally the offensive coordinator, but I think there are some overall offensive philosophies that go into this. And so, firing Jeremiah Boswell, who is one of the team's kind of like shooting specialist coaches, moving on from him or swapping some coaches out, like who knows what's really effective. It's really about what the players do and how they respond to that coaching. Now, having said that, while I would not anticipate any changes, I think that overall the Magic look at this season and say the reason that we did not improve, the reason that we did not take the step up that we hoped to take this season was because of injuries. If Orlando's healthy, if they don't lose Paolo, Banchero, and they probably feel like they're right where they want to be, competing for the 4 seed, which the Indiana Pacers clinched tonight. We'll talk about the game on Friday here in a minute. Whether it's they would have competed for the 4 seed. I think they really do believe that they would have been in that competition and been able to achieve all their goals. So I don't think the Magic look at this roster and say, we need to make drastic changes, that Jamahl Mosley's voice has quieted. One thing that Jamahl Mosley talks about a lot is that the Magic get better as the season progresses. That the Magic are playing their best basketball in March and April. And certainly some of this is players got healthy. Paolo Banchero got into rhythm. They found a consistent rotation. They were not moving guys in and out of the lineup all the time. They didn't have an injury report like the one they have for Friday's game. Again, we'll talk about that at the end of the episode here. I think ultimately, when you look at this, the Magic have accomplished that goal. Orlando is 11-5 in their last 16 games. For the fourth year under Jamahl Mosley, all 4 years, the Magic have outperformed their season win percentage since the All-Star break. The Orlando Magic, they would be 12-11. They're over 500 since the All-Star break. Let me look this up. Let me be precise with my numbers if I'm going to be precise with the numbers. They're 11-5 in their last 16. Since the All-Star break, they are, if I can stall long enough to run the stats here. Since the All-Star break, they are. Excuse me while I run NBA.com. Since the All-Star break, the Magic are 13-11. Again, this team is 40-40 right now. So once again, they've outperformed their regular season win percentage since the All-Star break. And obviously that's a short, small sample size, but that tells you they are on the upswing, that they are playing better as the season concludes. To me, this is a statement that, yes, Jamahl Mosley's voice is still carrying weight, that the Orlando Magic are still listening to him, that they're still getting better, they're believing and trusting and buying in with what he's saying. Having said that, there have been moments this year where it did not feel like that, where it did feel like things were falling on deaf ears, where the injuries that the team was determined to overcome through just sheer effort and force, they weren't able to overcome them anymore. And so, yes, like Jamahl Mosley, there are things to complain about. The timeout thing, like it feels like he takes things a tick too far. He lets plays go a tick too long, like one play too long. Get like about like what the art of that is. Like some people have a feel for it, some people don't. Maybe there's something else going on. Certainly the Magic have not been able to form a functioning offense. I know one of my criticisms of Mosley since the Magic hired him was I believe in the vision that he has for this offense, and that you want to create something that's read-based so it's more predictable when you get in the playoffs, when you're reading the defense rather than the defense kind of sitting on pet actions, or you get an action denied and you don't have anywhere to go. This team probably needs some more guardrails because they're just not good enough, or they're not experienced enough to make those advanced reads that this offense honestly calls for. I think he struggled this year, especially to adjust to personnel. They kind of kept running the same things, whether they had Paolo or Franz or not, instead of maybe putting Paolo in situations where he could get easier shots, where he could kind of just for him while he was recovering and getting his legs back under him. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that while I think Jamahl Mosley is a huge reason for the Magic's success, or whatever you want to define as success this year, I will also admit that I think Jamahl Mosley cost them games this year, and his inability to maybe change or switch things hurt them at a certain point in the season. Having said all this, though, the Magic have probably outperformed what any of us could have thought. And they're still one of the best defenses in the league. They're still bought in on that end. And while I think that the Magic have to have a more focused and intense offense and need an offensive overhaul, they need more offensive talent, it feels like most of the questions we have about this team are directed at Jeff Weltman more than Mosley. Having said that, as everyone has acknowledged throughout the course of this week, the coach is the easiest one to change. The coach is the easiest person to get rid of when things go wrong. And so, whatever changes that Jeff Weltman makes this offseason, whatever changes the Magic make this offseason to improve this team, almost certainly there is now pressure on Jamahl Mosley. Next year is a pressure season for Jamahl Mosley. The team failed to meet expectations this year, and next year is about getting their spot back, if not advancing to where we all thought they would be advancing, regardless of what happened this season. And so, to be sure, if the Magic get off to a slow start, if the Magic's offense continues to be one of the worst offenses in the league, there's going to be a lot more pressure on Jamahl Mosley. Mose is fine. Team played hard. They've accomplished a lot. Excuse me for coughing. They accomplished a lot this season. The pressure is now on Jeff Weltman to add offensive talent, and then the pressure is back on Jamahl Mosley next year to elevate this team offensively and get that missing piece to make them legitimate contenders. And if he's unable to do that, then I think we see the Magic move in another direction. As Zach Lowe said on his podcast with Bill Simmons last week, the seat is not warm at all for Jamahl Mosley. He is about as safe. I don't think anyone's completely safe, but he is very, very safe in his job. But that's going to change next year, when the Magic probably are going to demand more proven results regardless of anything else. After the last 2 games of the season, it's time to think about who will the Magic play in the play-in tournament. Who do the Magic want in the play-in tournament, and what they have to say about it. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready, because when they swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's really simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-2025 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Whether you're celebrating an epic 50-point performance by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door, or if you're looking to get a late night snack because you're staying up watching highlights, use Dash Pass. If you need quick and easy lunch the next day with Dash Pass, you get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus now, you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. The Orlando Magic have clinched their spot in the play-in tournament. They are the 7 seed, Southeast Division champions. We went over all of that back in Orlando yesterday. Now we're just waiting to see who the Magic play. And we'll talk about what we're expecting in these last two home games and these last two games on the road. I'm in a hotel room and my mic sounds weird. We'll get to what to expect in these last two games here in a minute. But as we get to sit back and wait now, as we get to sit back and watch the other teams kind of battle each other, we get to ask that seminal question. Who do you want? Who do you want? Like, who do you want? Come on, tell me. Who do you want? Who do you want? You can't tell me because this isn't being recorded live. Drop it in the comments. I'll make it a poll tomorrow. Who do you want in the play-in tournament? This is not to cause any... I've been asked this question a few times. This is not to create any locker room material. Be quiet there, Brad. Be quiet there, Wes and David. Be quiet there, Pat the designer, over with Locked On Bulls. This isn't to make locker room material, but it deserves a real thought. Who is the best chance for the Magic to advance in the play-in tournament? Well, let's start with the standings check. It is time for a standings check. As we sit here tonight, the Atlanta Hawks just on Tuesday. The Hawks want the Brooklyn Nets to get to 38 and 42. The Chicago Bulls are 37 and 43, so they are one game back. The two teams split their season series. They're separated in the conference record by one game. So it is still at least quasi-feasible that Chicago passes the Hawks and gets to the 8th seed. So it's not impossible for that to happen. Chicago finishes the season, if I can get their schedule to load up here with my hotel internet. Chicago finishes the season with they play the Sixers on Sunday. So two very winnable games. Atlanta finishes with the Sixers on Friday, and then of course the Orlando Magic on Sunday. We'll talk about that in a minute. Miami Heat 36 and 44. They are 2 games back now of the Hawks. They would need both Atlanta and Chicago to lose both games, and they would need to win both of their remaining games. They have Washington on Sunday, so Miami also has a very, very favorable schedule. Again, this is why I was so critical that the Magic get their job done at home, win those 2 games, and not have to worry about playing the Pacers or win that last game to clinch the 7 seed. Orlando did their work early. They get to kind of sit back and relax, as we'll talk about here in a minute. But let's get to it. Those are the 3 options. Atlanta, Chicago, Miami. Who do the Magic want? Well, the Magic have lost to all 3. Let's not pretend otherwise. Orlando lost to Atlanta in February in that first matchup right before the All-Star break. Obviously, that was a long time ago. That was before Paolo really hit the stride. Paolo dominated the game after the All-Star break just a week later. Dominated the game on Tuesday. Honestly, Atlanta's pretty good. If I had my pick of those 3 teams, I think I would want the Magic to play the Hawks. They don't have the size to deal with Paolo. They put Onyeka Okongwu on Paolo throughout much of Tuesday's game. That left Wendell Carter a lot of room to work around the basket. He took full advantage of it. They put Dyson Daniels on Franz Wagner, and while Dyson Daniels held his own, he doesn't have the size to deal with Franz. And Franz was able to kind of beat him, even though Dyson Daniels is an all-defensive team player. This is not taking anything away from Dyson Daniels. The Hawks just don't have the size to deal with the Magic. However, the only reason you don't want to see Atlanta is because Trae Young is good enough to win games on his own. Now, the Magic have done a good job on Trae, and I actually think they did a pretty good job on Trae Young on Tuesday. When the Hawks found their most success, it was because Trae was able to defense on him. Orlando essentially told Onyeka Okongwu, go make shots. We're going to double Trae Young on screens. We're going to blitz them with Wendell Carter. And if Onyeka Okongwu is able to make shots and make those 3-pointers, we will live with it. They lived with it, and they won that game pretty much running away. There's a lot of things I think they left on the board, a lot of offensive rebounds, a lot of missed free throws. That game Tuesday probably should have been a runaway victory. If Orlando can get to the foul line and force their way to the foul line like they did, which is their forte, Wednesday's game excused, Orlando, I think, would have a very good time playing against Atlanta. It's just simply a matter of matchup why I think the Hawks are the most favorable matchup for that game on Tuesday. Because you look at Chicago. Not only is Chicago playing very, very well, Kobe White, like Trae Young, although not to the extent of Trae Young, can get himself going, get that shot flowing, make a ton of shots. He did that against Orlando. And honestly, look at the 3 games that the Magic played against the Bulls this year. The first game, the Magic were winning pretty comfortably, and then Paolo Banchero tore his oblique. Nobody could score, and Chicago, with Zach LaVine still on the roster, won that game in the end. If Paolo Banchero's healthy that game, Franz Wagner was sick that game. If he's not sick, Orlando probably wins that game, and we're not talking about a lot of different things. The second game, Orlando just blew the doors open off Chicago in November. Obviously, that was a lifetime ago for both teams, and Chicago looks very different now. Having said that, even in the game the Magic lost to the Bulls, Orlando played very well. They were up by 7. They gave up a 9-2 run or like a 10-2 run in the last 2 minutes. Kobe White caught fire. Orlando couldn't get shots. They missed a wide open 3 that would have won them the game. Orlando, I'm not sitting here saying Atlanta. I'm sitting here saying Atlanta's the best. I'm not sitting here saying Orlando. I'm not thinking Orlando to beat all 3 of these teams. Orlando, in my opinion, is better than all 3 of these teams. The record bears that out, obviously, because Orlando's clinched the spot. But the reason why I don't think Chicago is as good of a matchup is because, yes, they have Nikola Vucevic, who's still playing very, very well, although his defense has kind of slipped back a little bit. They have the size to deal with Paolo. They have Patrick Williams. They have Josh Giddey. They have some big guys. They defend well. They get up and down the court. Atlanta does too, but they get up a lot of threes. There's a lot more variance, I feel, with Chicago. And Chicago, again, is just frankly playing better than Atlanta. Atlanta right now, their defense does not exist. They do not defend. They defended tonight against Brooklyn, but they generally do not defend right now. And that's something Orlando needs. Chicago will defend. Chicago's a good defensive team. Same thing with Miami. Honestly, I think even though I think Orlando can beat Miami, and I think Orlando would beat Miami on most nights, probably Miami has experience, and they have the best size to deal with the Magic. Whether it's Andrew Wiggins guarding Franz Wagner, whether it's Kel'el Ware taking turns on Paolo, whether it's Bam Adebayo taking turns on Paolo, to me, that is the worst matchup of these 3. Luckily for Orlando, then, if my analysis is correct, and I'm curious what you all think, luckily for Orlando, then, the Magic seem to be lining up for a matchup with the Hawks. A team that we've seen a lot lately, obviously, a team that we just saw Tuesday, and a game that the Magic, they needed to obviously, make some plays in the fourth quarter, but a game they generally won pretty comfortably. If Orlando can copy a lot of the things in that game, and a lot of the things in that game felt very, very much like they can do that again, they're going to be the 7th seed, they're going to head to Boston, and they're going to be in the playoffs. That's who I would pick to be in the play-in. I'd like to know, who would you pick? Who do you think the Magic should want in the play-in? If the Magic do want Atlanta in the play-in, they can lose that game on Sunday and pretty much assure the Hawks will be the winners of that play-in. Will be the winners of that tiebreaker with Chicago. Keep them ahead of the Bulls and send them to Orlando for a game on Tuesday. Orlando seems to be trending in that direction. Let's talk a little bit about what to expect in Friday's game against the Indiana Pacers. The opportunity ahead for some players who don't usually get it. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. There is nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup, but finding great seats at a great price. That used to be a challenge until Game Time arrived. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer, and you see total cost up front, surprises at checkout. I am here in Indiana. I committed to going on this road trip long before we understood that the Magic would clinch this thing. My hotel cancellation date was after last night's game. So here I am in Indiana, committed to this trip, committed to the bit. We'll be at the game on tomorrow. But I got to my hotel room and turned on TNT and was like, oh, I forgot. The Pacers have a home game. Let me see what ticket prices are like. Maybe I can get down there in time to catch the Pacers and the Cavs. Turned out to be a really good game. And guess what? Game Time had a ton of tickets at good prices if I wanted to get off my butt and travel all the way downtown to Indianapolis. I'm staying by the airport, which is a little bit far away. You don't need to know where I'm at. Game Time has all these great opportunities. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. You can grab last minute tickets and save big with their zone deals. Magic Play tickets are on sale. I'm sure seats now on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Okay, as I was getting ready to board the plane to Indianapolis, the Orlando Magic put out their injury report, and not completely unexpected, it is a long one. Look, the Magic have quit. As much as I think there is some value in getting to 500, winning 41 games, just like a mental thing. I think Orlando's only made the playoffs twice in franchise history with a record below 500. It definitely doesn't feel like you should be a playoff team if you're under 500. How star though, like 9-10 also under 500, so it's not like there aren't enough over 500 teams this year to fill all those spots, but that's neither here nor there. It definitely feels icky to make the playoffs with a record below 500. I would like to see the Magic win one more of these games, but all signs are pointing to the Orlando Magic taking it easy, making sure guys get their rest, making sure guys are ready to go for Tuesday's play-in game, because ultimately that's the only win that matters. Win Tuesday, get to the playoffs, and let's go from there. The Orlando Magic put out their injury report, and all 5 of the team's starters are suddenly questionable. Paolo Banchero listed as questionable with right ankle soreness. My ankle is always sore. I get that, buddy. Continues Caldwell-Pope, questionable with a left knee strain. He did leave Wednesday's game with a sore left knee, as the Magic reported. So, shocked that they would rest, continue to make sure that he is good to go. We're going to get Indiana Gary Harris. Just be ready for Indiana Gary Harris to play tomorrow night. Wendell Carter is questionable with a right hip contusion. Corey Joseph is questionable with left knee soreness. And Franz Wagner, who is an Iron Man that is never hurt, questionable with right knee soreness. This is a dance everyone has to do. They have to be listed as questionable. The Magic have to put something out there as a reason why they might not play. All signs are pointing to the Orlando Magic sitting all 5 of their main starters for the remainder of the season. That we won't see Paolo Banchero play the last 2 games, won't see Franz Wagner play the last 2 games, won't see any of that. I did think that the Magic might do like a third NFL preseason game type deal with their minutes. I thought we might see them play kind of their normal minutes through the let them get through halftime, get a sweat in, like kind of just play to keep some rhythm, and then sit them through the fourth quarter. Even if the game's close, sit them through the fourth quarter. We talked about this yesterday, but I asked Franz Wagner about whether going for 41 wins, getting a 500 record is something they want to chase within reason. And he said, like, yeah, I think within reason, like if it's out there for us to get, let's go get it. But we're not going to sell completely out for this. For the Indiana Pacers, who defeated the undermanned Cleveland Cavaliers, who sat many of their players as well, since they are locked into the 1 seed, the Indiana Pacers did defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers on Thursday at home. They still have something to play for. They trail the New York Knicks by 1 game in the standings. They need to essentially be perfect. The Knicks are 50-30. The Pacers are 49-31. The Knicks lost to the Pistons on Thursday. The games or lose both of the games to have a shot at the 3 seed. They would lose the conference tiebreaker, so they do need to win both games, and the Knicks to lose both games. I don't know what the season series is, but if it's even or anything, then the Pacers aren't going to win that. The Pacers still have something to play for then. They still have a chance to advance, but they've essentially wrapped up all they're going to wrap up to. So, frankly, there is just not a lot of motivation to play on either side. We're going to be back here. We'll recap the game. We'll talk about it. We'll find something to hang on to and something to discuss after the game on Friday, probably. But Yeah, we've hit this point of the season. There's no reason for the Magic to. There's no motivation other than to be a 500 team for the Magic to play most of their guys. Get Gary Harris some run, get him. Honestly, I don't even think he plays a full complement of minutes. There's a chance to get Caleb Houston some run, Jet Howard some run, Queen action of former. It's a chance in the bench. Obviously, Mac McClung and Ethan Thompson are with the Osceola Magic, who played Game 2 of the G League Finals on Friday, so we will not see them on Friday. If they win that, I don't think we'd see them Sunday in Atlanta for an afternoon game, but I wouldn't put it completely out of the realm of possibility. But Orlando is going to play that game. They're going to sit guys. They're going to give guys some time off. Maybe we see guys do that kind of preseason NFL game stuff on Sunday in the final game, just to make sure the NBA doesn't get angry at them, so they play those guys a little bit. But honestly, tonight, play them Friday, and then sit them Sunday. Let the Hawks do whatever they're going to do, and not show them anything or give them a chance to start anything more than they have to. This is just the reality. Orlando's everything they can do. They give up. All they play for is pride and to be a. So they're preparing for Tuesday. I am still personally watching and hoping to see the Caleb Houston dunk. If we do that, we will celebrate as profusely as we can inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse for that. But that's about all that's left to say, and that's about all that's left for the season at this point until Tuesday. So we're all counting down the days till Tuesday and the play-in tournament, and we'll just go from there. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of Still podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the OrlandoMagicHub.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to go check out the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter. With the playoff race heating up, with us preparing for the play-in tournament, the best place to get the latest news on the Orlando Magic in a very digestible form and around the league is the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter. And if you subscribe today, you can get a chance to win one of these amazing prizes. A $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave setup, a $300 Game Time gift card to get those playoff tickets, or a $200 Fanatics gift card to make sure you are geared up for the postseason. Sign up between now and April 30th at the end of the month to be entered. Our Magic newsletter delivers real-time updates, expert analysis, and playoff insights tailored for you. So subscribe now for free to the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter and stay ahead as the season unfolds. Subscribe today at LockedOnDaily.com. Click the link in the description to enter. That's good to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow, no matter what, to talk about the Orlando Magic's game against Indiana Pacers. We will see you from Gainbridge Fieldhouse tomorrow. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.